everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Eve. This is Everyday Artist, and welcome, and this is Rogue. We're filming a little late today because I had a doctor's appointment and then I don't know, fell out of my head. Because I have diabetes, different doctors want to try different stuff and different tests and all that, and other than just blood tests, right? And one of those, as you get older, is a neuropathy test. Had one about a year ago, my podiatrist. It wasn't so bad. It was like blood pressure cuffs on my ankles and wrists. Still unpleasant because I hate having my blood pressure taken. Long story. Anyway, I've been seeing a neurologist recently, and they did a different type of test, and it was electrodes and pins. And it was extremely painful, and anyway, so I had a podiatrist appointment this morning, and they wanted to do another one of those tests. I said, no. I said, my neurologist just did it. I'll have them send you the files because, yeah, I'm not doing it again. Maybe in a year, but I don't want to do it again. So by that time, I'd completely forgotten that it was Monday, and I wanted to do my update. So I was trying to remember what I worked on this past week. There's been a lot of days this week when I stitch for a little while, but I'm going to have to do something about this couch that I'm sitting in, which is the only place I have to sit and stitch right now, because if I sit on my bed and do it, it's very uncomfortable. And it's uncomfortable to sit on my bed for any length of time, and the lighting in there is horrible. And I think that sitting on this couch has caused all kinds of problems. And I was like, I can't stand sitting here anymore. I gotta go somewhere else. Also, the weather's quite pleasant today. So I will finally start showing you my cross stitch this past week. I did some more work on hands-on design blueberry, the berry basket. I did more work than what you're going to see. So I finished these berries and started on these, but since I had this color out to do the Smyrna crosses, I went ahead and did those. This is just holding the rest of it because I'm going to need to put more. But the symbol for these Smyrna crosses is just a black Smyrna cross, right? On the, like as if it was back stitching kind of thing, right? Well, that same symbol is in the middle here, exactly the same. I mean, everything about it is the same because the pattern is black and white. And the instructions tell you that this inside needs to be light blue, like this. But they're also Smyrna crosses. So of course, I saw the symbol for the Smyrna crosses, and I just did them in this color. Yeah. So I had to pull them all out. So I would have gotten further, but yeah. And they actually are showing up quite a bit better here than they normally look for me while I'm stitching. So I haven't gotten as far as I would have gotten if I'd stitched it correctly the first time, but you know. And then I couldn't remember how far I'd shown you of Goodness and Mercy. I had been stitching this a little bit every now and then. So I'm not sure if I showed it to you last week or not. But this is supposed to be, what is this thread? It's part of the fabric, I think. These letters should be one stitch higher than what they actually are. But I decided to go ahead and leave them, and then I'll just make this next line where it's supposed to be. But because that gives me just a hair more room for putting his little top knot. Maybe. But I don't think that'll make that much difference anyway. So I call them top knots, but you know, a little quail have those little feathers right there. Anyway, again, this is showing up a lot better here than it does in person. This color in person, I can't see it at all. Well, I can, but hard. So there is that. And then I'm showing you all the stuff that I'm not supposed to be doing. Forced embroidery cranes. I've done a little bit more on that. This is right side up. I find 25 count very difficult to work on. And I'm sure it's just I'm not used to it. But when you stitch it, you're like, okay, that's too small. No, it's too big. No, it's too small. And, you know, you really have to just count the holes because your mind just says that's not right because you're used to seeing 14 count, 28 count, 32 count, what have you. And this is entirely different. But the color is so beautiful for the white. Speaking of white on that color, CrossStitchingForFun, Snowflake Ornaments. I have one of them finished. I'm going to try and go all the way across with this one, and I'm thinking it's going to go to about here. I tried to measure. And that's, I think, plenty of space for me to do it by itself, if I wanted to make them into individual ornaments, but also not so far away that it'll look strange if I do it with all four of them. I still cannot, and it is a big discussion between my sisters and myself, figure out what animal that is. It's not a polar bear. what is it? And I looked at the PDF, and this is a back stitching line, I guess to show a tummy. I don't know. I may have to contact the designer and say, what kind of animal is that? The rest of the ornament is beautiful, like the others. You know, the snowflakes. But I don't understand what those are, what that is. If you know, shout it out. Because I'm still, every week I tell you the same thing. I don't know what that is. And then I put in one more thread on Sapphire Mountain Handcrafts 2023 temperature cell. I might have it done before the end of 2024. Maybe. And there we go. So not too much further to go. She really needs to put out just this as, I don't know, a bookmark or something. It's beautiful. I like her design in general with the whole thing. And I like the fact that she had a nice large space to put where this is and what year it is. So that many years from now, when my son is trying to decide what to do with everything that I have left behind, and I'm not being morbid, all of us know that our children will eventually have to make those decisions. At least he'll know when I did it. Yeah. He kind of knows what I'm working on all the time anyway. Not everything, but just if it's something I'm working on when he's sitting around. And lastly, temperature turtles, Stitchin Mommy's temperature turtles. And it looks as though this October turtle is actually going to have more colors than red. October. What happened to the rest of the year? I mean, it is just slid by. So far, it is just red. But it is supposed to get down to low 80s, upper 70s toward the end of the week. That's cool for us. That's coming on winter for us. Apparently, a storm is on the west coast of the Americas and may affect our weather, bringing us much needed moisture. Whether it'll actually rain is anybody's guess, but and you know, it feels wrong and bad to be saying, you know, that we would like to have moisture when I know that people are really having challenges with the weather in their areas. I went to college in Texas, and I remember the tornado warnings, which were unpleasant. to even think about. I grew up in Albuquerque, which has 4 seasons. There was once a little tiny tremor. I mean, like that, you know. But because I lived near a volcano, but there was no. If it snowed, it was this much, you know, and it was gone by later in the day. It was never anything really bad. Once in a while, we'd get ice. I mean, black ice and stuff on the roads, which could be challenging, but it was not bad. So I go to school in Texas, and, you know, tornado sirens are unpleasant. I know they need to be so that you can hear them everywhere and get to safety. But having grown up where there was none of that, it was pretty disturbing. And then I went to Belgium. Yeah, I got snowed in. Yeah, deep snow. Ice, the trees crystallized, you know, with the white, very beautiful. Not fun to drive in, but very beautiful. And I saw a couple of winters in England where I visited, and, you know, beautiful snow. I just didn't like living in it. And I decided that I never wanted to live where it snowed again, ever. So I moved to Florida. Hurricane Hugo was aiming for us for a long time, and then it shifted and went up, and I think it hit the Carolinas just like this last one. So I went back to New Mexico, where I was used to the weather and the things that they had there, and then I moved here where there is definitely no snow. We do get dust storms, but if you're standing outside in them, they hurt, but they pass over in a few minutes. You can pull to the side of the road, they pass over, they're gone. It's not like the fog that I used to drive in Florida. So the climate I live in is perfect for me. But I've seen images of what's going on the east coast of the country, and it's just terrifying. And you know, every part of the country has something, but those big storms like tornadoes and hurricanes and things like that are something I just, yes, we have heat that can kill here, but it's I wouldn't say it's easy to get away from it, but it's possible to get away from it in today's modern world. Here, our greatest danger is people drowning, mostly kids, and then people getting sick from the heat. And that is not the same. And so I love living here. I love the climate here. But I've seen and been in, fortunately, none of it actually affected me, the hurricanes and stuff that were around, or the tornadoes. But I'll just keep praying for the people that are experiencing all this, and their animals, their families. But that is all I have. And I hope you guys are someplace safe and not experiencing any horrible weather in your areas. And if that hurricane is indeed brewing on the west side of the country, they may have problems there too. You know, one of the problems with living in a place where it never rains is that the ground is baked hard, solid. Our yard is so hard that my son had to get a hammer and a pick to slam down in order to make a hole to put Christmas ornaments up. That's how hard the ground is, okay? So when it rains more than just a little, and every now and then it'll rain a lot, the water just has nowhere to go. The ground does not absorb it, and very few areas have any kind of drainage. That there might be grooves, so it'll drain a certain direction, but yeah, you end up driving through some puddles. And there are a lot of places where you go, that lake wasn't there yesterday. There's a lot of places in Scottsdale that are like that, and a few here now too. Anyway, and that's why California has the problems it does when it rains hard, and the mudslides and stuff like that. It's because the ground can't absorb the rain. So anyway, enough talk about weather. I hope you guys are safe. I hope you're enjoying your stitching, and hopefully I will be able to get more done this week, and I will see you again next week.